All right. So, you know, uh, tons of people want to learn to code,
Hmm.
but they're not sure where to start.
Yeah.
And, one of the biggest questions we get is Python
Oh, yeah, for
or
sure.
JavaScript. Like, which
Yeah.
one should I learn first? Which one's going to be better for me?
It's a tough one.
It's a tough one. So we actually got this article sent to us,
Okay.
and it's called Should You Avoid JavaScript Until You've Mastered Python? So
Interesting.
I thought we could take a little deep dive into it today and,
Yeah, let's do it.
yeah, see what they have to say.
I'm curious.
Yeah, me too.
What does it say about the two languages to start off?
Well, they start out, by laying out like what each one is good at,
Okay.
and that was a really interesting way to put it.
Okay.
They're like, okay, so Python, it's almost like a Swiss Army knife.
Okay.
You can use it for a bunch of different things,
Right.
data analysis,
Oh, wow.
web development, even artificial intelligence.
Really?
Yeah, it's pretty crazy.
All right. Yeah.
But then JavaScript is like,
Okay.
more like a master key,
Uh-huh.
and it's really designed to unlock the world of web interactivity.
So Python's like a generalist and JavaScript's the specialist.
Yeah, exactly.
For the web.
Yeah,
Exactly.
So I was thinking about that, like with Python being that multi-tool,
Yeah.
all these things that we interact with every day,
Mm-hmm.
like self-driving cars,
Oh, wow.
or, like how Netflix recommends,
Yeah.
the next show you should watch.
Right. Right.
Like that's all
That's wild.
Python, like behind the scenes,
Yeah. Yeah.
And then with JavaScript, it's like everything on the web that is like
Mhm.
visual or dynamic or interactive, like,
Okay.
those maps that you can like scroll around in.
Right.
Or like those cool animations or, those,
Yeah. Or a drop-down menu.
yeah, like a drop-down menu. That's all JavaScript.
That's really cool. I never really thought about it like that.
Yeah, it's pretty amazing.
So what else does this article say about the languages themselves?
Well, they give a couple code examples too,
Oh, okay.
which I thought was kind of cool, like just to kind of see it,
Sure.
And so like in Python, if you want to print hello world,
Right. The classic.
it's super simple. It's just print hello world.
Okay.
But then in JavaScript, you need a bit more code.
Really?
Yeah, it's like console.log, hello world.
So it's a little bit more complicated.
Yeah.
Huh.
Yeah, and it just seems like right off the bat,
Yeah.
Python is just like way more readable.
Yeah, I can see that.
Yeah.
Even just looking at those two
Yeah.
little snippets of code, you can kind of see
Totally.
like a difference in philosophy almost. Like
Yeah.
Python is really striving for
Yeah.
readability and clarity, even for beginners.
Totally.
Like it's just so clear what it's doing.
Exactly.
And then JavaScript's like, okay, we can
Right.
get this done, but
Right.
we're going to make it as short as possible.
Exactly.
Yeah, that's interesting.
So, I mean, that brings us to like the whole debate, right?
Yeah.
Like, should you learn Python first?
Okay.
And the article seems to think so, especially if you're a beginner, because it really focuses on readability and structure
Okay.
and like consistent rules. So it can really help you solidify
Yeah.
those like basic programming concepts that you need
Right. Okay.
to learn, no matter what.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah.
It's like building a house. You got to have
Right.
that good foundation.
Exactly. And so if you learn those good habits
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
on Python,
Right.
then even if you switch over to something else,
Right.
later on, you already have that good foundation.
That's a good point.
Yeah. And the article really highlights how Python encourages
Mhm.
good coding habits from the start.
Like what?
Like just writing really clear and logical code
Oh, okay.
and like documenting your code well.
Oh, that's important.
Yeah, so that other people can understand it.
Yeah, and you can understand it like 6 months later.
Exactly. And yourself later.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's super important
Yeah.
no matter what you're working on.
Absolutely.
But the article also makes a good case for JavaScript.
Okay.
And especially if you are really interested in web development,
Okay. Sure.
because there's something really cool about seeing your code
Yeah.
come to life in the browser.
Right.
Like you can build a website and you can see those buttons work.
Yeah, instant gratification.
Yeah, exactly. And that can be
Yeah.
really motivating
Totally.
of a lot of people. And plus, like JavaScript is basically
Mhm.
how everything on the web works.
Pretty much.
Like if you want to build anything interactive or
Yeah.
dynamic online,
Yeah.
JavaScript is what you have to use.
JavaScript is the way to go.
Yeah,
Wow. So we've got Python, the multi-tool,
right.
which is good for a lot of different things, data and logic.
Yeah.
And then we've got JavaScript, the master key to the web.
Yeah.
So how do we even choose?
That's a great question. That's what we're going to talk about next.
Yeah.
So we've talked about how both Python and JavaScript have these awesome strengths.
Yeah.
And, even learning both isn't totally crazy.
Right.
But, like, how do we help people decide what's right for them?
Well, that's where I think this whole idea of Algocademy's approach really comes in.
Okay.
Because by focusing on these like foundational programming skills,
Yeah.
it kind of helps you figure out what you really want to do.
Okay, so break that down for me a little bit.
Yeah.
Like, what does that even mean?
So the article talks about a bunch of factors to consider.
Okay.
And the first one is kind of obvious, your career goals.
Okay, so if you want to be a web developer,
Exactly.
you probably want to learn JavaScript.
Yeah. And like if you're dreaming of building like these beautiful websites,
Yeah.
with all the cool interactive stuff,
Yeah.
then JavaScript is like the clear starting point.
Okay, but what if you're more interested in, like, data science
Right.
or AI or something like that?
Yeah, Python is like the king of that world.
Oh, really?
Yeah, those libraries that Python has, like TensorFlow
Okay.
and PyTorch, are like super powerful for
Wow.
building algorithms and analyzing data.
What's that called?
So if you're like passionate about data,
Yeah.
Python's probably your best bet.
Okay, so we've got web dev kind of leaning towards JavaScript,
Mm-hmm.
data science leaning towards Python.
Right.
But that's not all, though, right?
No, definitely not.
There's more to consider.
Yeah, the article talks about how your learning style
Okay.
is really important.
No, interesting.
So some people really like structure
Okay.
and rules and guidelines.
Yeah.
And for those people, Python is probably going to feel really good.
Because it's so
Yeah, it's nice and neat.
Yeah.
Everything has its place.
consistent.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
But other people like to be more hands-on.
Okay.
They like to experiment and see results quickly.
Mm-hmm.
And for those folks, JavaScript, especially with web dev,
Right.
can be really exciting because you can like write some code. Yeah.
Refresh the page and see it right there in the browser.
Yeah, that instant feedback is pretty cool.
It's super motivating.
Yeah. So, it's not just about the technical parts of the language.
Right.
It's also about like who you are as a learner.
Totally. It's about finding a language that, like,
Yep.
fits your style
Yeah.
and keeps you engaged.
It keeps you going. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And on top of all that,
Yeah.
there's one more thing that the article mentions that I think is super important.
What's that?
Your passions. Like, what are you really interested in?
Okay.
What kind of projects are you excited to work on?
Okay. Yeah. So like if you love the idea of making websites
Exactly.
or games or like interactive data visualizations.
Yeah, JavaScript's going to be your jam.
Okay.
But if you're more into, like, analyzing data,
Yeah.
or you're, like, fascinated by AI and solving problems with code,
Hmm.
then Python might be the better choice.
Okay. So at the end of the day, it's not really about like Python versus JavaScript.
Right. It's not a battle.
It's about finding the language that you connect with.
That makes sense.
Yeah. And I think it's easy to get caught up in that comparison.
Yeah, for sure.
And forget that learning to code is like a journey.
Right.
It's not about picking the right language.
Yeah.
It's about taking that first step.
Okay, so how do we help people take that first step?
Well, that's where Algocademy comes in again,
Okay.
with their focus on building those core programming skills.
Yeah.
Because those are the things that will help you no matter what language you choose.
So it's like learning the fundamentals of music
Exactly.
before you try to write a song.
Yes.
You know.
Perfect analogy.
Okay,
If you understand the basics, you can apply them anywhere.
that makes sense.
Yeah. And the cool thing is
Yeah.
that approach also helps you keep up with technology because
Right, because technology changes so fast.
all the time new languages pop up, new frameworks.
Yeah,
But if you have that strong foundation,
yeah.
you can learn those new things way faster.
Okay, so it's almost like Algo Academy is giving you a master key.
Yeah,
Open any door.
exactly. And that's what makes you a really good programmer because companies want people who can solve problems and learn new things. And that's what Algo Academy teaches you.
So to wrap up this part of our deep dive,
Mm-hmm.
it seems like it really depends on the person.
Yeah,
But no matter what you choose,
right.
Algo Academy can help you build a solid foundation.
Absolutely.
Okay. But I think the article left us with a
Yeah.
really interesting thought.
It did.
And it's this idea of not thinking about it as Python versus JavaScript,
Right.
but thinking about how they can work together.
Yes.
Because they both have their strengths.
Exactly.
And they can really complement each other.
Imagine what you could build
Yeah.
if you knew both of them.
Yeah, that's pretty awesome.
That's what we're going to talk about next.
So we've spent a lot of time talking about Python versus JavaScript,
Yeah, we really have.
but I think it's time to bring it back to Algo Academy
Yeah, for sure.
and like how their platform can actually help people learn.
Right, because at the end of the day,
Yeah.
it's about having those foundational skills.
Right. So less about memorizing syntax and more about the logic behind it.
Exactly. And Algo Academy really seems to get that.
Okay, so how do they do that?
Well, they focus on those core programming concepts,
Mhm.
like variables, data types, control flow functions,
Okay.
all that good stuff.
Yeah, and those are like the building blocks.
Exact. They're like universal,
Okay.
no matter what language you're using.
So it's almost like learning music theory.
Oh, yeah. I love that analogy.
Right. Like you can learn to play a song on the piano,
Uh-huh.
but if you understand music theory, you can play anything.
Exactly. Same with coding.
So Algo Academy is kind of like teaching you the music theory of programming.
Yeah, I like that.
So you can go out and write any kind of code you want.
And on any instrument you want.
Exactly.
Yeah.
That's really
Yeah,
cool.
the best part is
Yeah.
it prepares you for the future because
Right. Technology changes so fast.
all the time new languages pop up, new frameworks.
Right.
It can be overwhelming,
Yeah.
but if you have those core concepts down,
Yeah.
you can pick up those new things way faster.
So you're not stuck learning just one language.
Right, you're learning how to learn.
Yeah, that's awesome.
And that's what makes you a valuable programmer.
It makes you adaptable.
Yeah, exactly, because the tech world is constantly changing.
So to sum up our deep dive today,
Mm-hmm.
it's not really about Python versus JavaScript
Yeah, it's about finding what works for you.
and building a strong foundation.
With something like Algo Academy.
Yeah, and then you go out and learn whatever you want.
Exactly. And I think that's a really empowering message.
It is. It's like you're not limited.
Nope. The possibilities are endless.
So for all of you listening out there,
Yeah.
embrace the journey. Stay curious.
And never stop learning.
That's it for our deep dive today.
Thanks for listening, everyone.
Happy coding.